It was going to be the locomotive of the future, a sleek, modern design that would capture the attention of many, but although it promised so much, the experimentalism proved a bit too much. The year is 1928 and a brand new, never seen before W1 class steam engine is being worked on in secrecy at Darlington Works. Number 10,000, designed by the esteemed engineer Sir Nigel Gresley, is destined for great things. The design is very unconventional, as you could probably tell. The reason for this was Gresley's brainwave of shoving a high-pressure marine boiler into a locomotive. This meant that the boiler was capable of producing 450 psi. This was practically double the usual pressure, and in theory was an absolutely genius idea. But it wasn't just a high-pressure boiler that made this locomotive unique. Oh no, that would be too easy. Number 10,000 would also feature a 464 wheel arrangement, making it the only tender engine in Britain to have it. This was done to accommodate the sheer scale of the boiler. Among other techniques that Gresley used to make it distinctive was the unusual sort of streamlined front that was designed as a result of a wind tunnel test. Variants of this innovative design would later be used on the P2s. Number 10,000, nicknamed Hush Hush due to the aforementioned secrecy of the project and also being planned to be named British Enterprise, was put in service in 1930, running the Flying Scotsman train between London and Edinburgh and featuring a corridor tender. Having covered 70,000 miles of service by 1933, it was then taken back into the works to be modified for over a year before returning to the main line, and then having covered another 20,000 miles was once again brought back to Doncaster for a full rebuild. If you're thinking that this locomotive was practically always being modified or tweaked, then yes, it was. Out of the 1,888 days since it was built, a whopping 1,105 was spent at Darlington. Hush Hush entered Doncaster Works, and at Gresley's command to rebuild it with a conventional fire tube boiler, it steamed out in 1937 featuring an A4 style design, still retaining an extra axle that provided the driver and fireman with more space. The experimental boiler was replaced with one having a PSI of a mere 250. The locomotive retained the number 10,000 and was fitted with a, let's see if I can butcher this, kill-chap arrangement until 1948, in which it got a non-corridor tender and a number change. Now instead of the elusive 10,000, it was just 60700. There was an accident in which Hush Hush was involved in, but it was recovered until being scrapped in 1959, thus making the W1 class extinct. But why did it spend so much time under repair, being altered and rebuilt? Why did it just not work? There are a few reasons as to why the W1 was a failure. To begin, it burned through coal at a much higher rate compared to other locomotives, and this meant that it cost a lot to operate. And despite Gresley's innovative concept, the locomotive didn't possess the hauling capacity or strength expected of such a high-performing engine. As mentioned earlier, Hush Hush had frequent breakdowns, and operational hiccups made the W1 unreliable for consistent service. In fact, its uniqueness meant that the components and functioning differed significantly from standard locomotives, causing complexities and inflated maintenance costs. The locomotive's boiler struggled to match the efficiency of traditional designs, hindering its steam production and overall performance, and there were also continual problems with air getting into the system, impacting the locomotive's functionality. Despite attempts at modifications, the locomotive failed to generate sufficient steam, and lastly, the fundamental issues rooted in its design were hard to overcome, leading to its ultimate impracticality in operational settings.